Hello, welcome again to another episode of Brain Power TV with Dr. Echo. Hello, parents and kids. I'm so glad you took the time to join us today. I have an amazing guest with me today, Miss Gwendolyn Wilson, and we're going to be talking about the power of self-talk. So Gwendolyn, would you please tell us how you got to this point in your life where we are having this discussion with you?
Well, I'll tell you first, I'll introduce myself and then I'll go into how I got here. I am Gwendolyn Wilson, the Turning Point Strategist and Business Consultant. And I support women at a crossroad in life and business to power shift, to strategize, optimize, and synergize what they already know so that they can monetize their expertise and gifts and magnify their authentic turning point to market premium products and services. And this way they actually get to use their authentic you factor, and I call it the you factor, their unique power, what they do, their unique purpose, what they do, their unique power, passion, what they love, so that they can create the life and the business of their dreams. And the way I got here was through being downsized. That's my unique turning point, one of them anyway. The unique turning point to work in a profession for 20 plus years and find twice in life you're downsized. And the last time I was downsized, it was a few days after my birthday, and my birthday was coming up, and then I found out the next day that my mom was really sick with cancer. And then the next day I was downsized right after that. So that was a drama of a happy birthday, mom, finding out your mom's really, really terminally ill, and then you get downsized. And during that time, it was really, you go all through all the emotions of, thinking of loss of income, frustration, anger, depleting of, savings and all those different things. But what I did was I did something that I had never done before. And in all of that, I thought, you know what? I have got to do something, and I have to do something really amazing. I have to do something really fast. So the first thing I did was I really said, well, you know what? I'm going to create my own business. I decided that, I had I was very, very good because I taught and I taught leadership classes. So I built relationships with, that I leveraged. I went back and leveraged relationships, and surprisingly, what I knew was powerful enough that, some of my old supervisors hired me as contractor. And so anyway, long story short, I said, hey, I'm better than this. I don't have to stay here. So I used my 4-point plan. I changed my mindset. I elevated my mindset. I said, hey, girl, you're better than this. You can do something with this. You're intelligent. Your expertise is powerful. You can do this. And then I created an action plan. The next thing I did, I changed my actions. I made up my mind to do it. I created a plan and I executed the plan. And those are the same things. So I call it my MAPE strategy: mindset, action, plan, and execute. And you can change your life. And so that's basically the same thing, the strategy that I use for clients that are in a transition period, shifting, whether it's life, divorce, death, or just baby boomers, ready to create that encore position, that encore business. So that's basically where I am, that turning point strategist, helping turn our troubles into triumph, pain into power. And so that's my story.
Wow. Okay, so where do we start with that? Okay, so can you tell us how important is mindset to helping us do anything? And remember, there's kids and there's parents listening to this. So how important is that to whatever we do in our lives?
Oh, it's number uno.
That's right.
Your mindset. I have another proprietary title that I use. I call it the mindset trifecta, and it's think, speak, and do. And it's so powerful. Mindset incorporates all three of those: what we think, what we speak, and what we do. And it starts with first, building. When you think about kids and you think about even with adults, we hear so much positive and also so much negative. So throughout our lives, we're that brain, that powerful brain, and the brain is so powerful. It's the best computer in the whole world. And so we absorb so much. But when we absorb positive things, it helps us to succeed in life. When we absorb and we utilize and we pull from the negative side, it's our hindrance and fears and all those factors that actually stymie our success and our moving forward. And so when you think about how powerful mindset is, you think about, pulling a cart, or I always say, because we have choices, it starts with a choice.
Right.
And a lot of times we always say we're going to do something, and everyone always choose the success side. But somehow the actions and the thinking doesn't always align. Some people are very successful, and then you look at other people and they still have they have the exact same dreams. They choose to win, but some don't and some do. And it's because the thinking doesn't line up with what they speak, and what they speak doesn't line up with what they do.
Can you
And
say that one
so
more
that's
time?
key. The thinking doesn't line up with what they speak, and their speaking doesn't line up with what they do. And that's what I call the mindset trifactor, is that, what we think is actually what we believe. So it
Right.
says what a man thinks in his heart is. And so a lot of times we think with our head, but we think with our heart, because what's penetrated, that's where all of our systems are, what we believe in, all of our what we trust, all of the things that we incorporate in who we are and our belief system, and the things that we believe about ourselves, we believe about the world, all of that's incorporated in. And then we have to teach kids, and we have to teach ourselves to speak positive about yourself. Speak up, speak power, speak positivity, speak life and not death. And a lot of times we'll say, oh, this is not going to happen for me. You've already spoke doom in that
Or it even
situation.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah, you speak it into the atmosphere that it's not going to work for you. And so after a while, going back to something we talked about earlier, repetitive thinking, repetitive learning, repetitive actions.
Right. Oh,
Yeah,
I mean, we could stop right there because
yeah, yeah,
you kids listening, if you got that, you're set, because whatever comes in your life, if you remind yourself that you do have a choice of how you think about it,
they do.
then
And
that
yeah,
makes the difference in how you act about it, right? And then
yes,
that makes the
yes,
difference in what happens, because it's your actions that will create the life that you want or that you have. Same thing for adults as
yeah.
well. So
It is, yeah.
yeah.
When you think about something that you really want to do. It's like the kids. I had a great experience with kids. I was substitute teaching, and in this virtual learning, there's a lot of kids that were having trouble with this because they're missing, especially at the early age. They were just beginning to first graders. They're just beginning to bond and have relationships, and they depend on those. And all of a sudden, it's torn apart, and they're home, and they have to function on their own. So sometimes, because we learn from one another, and you take that away from them, then they have to depend on the balance that they have in themselves. So what was funny is that I became a cheerleader for them. They take diagnostic tests, and so I realized that a lot of times they weren't paying attention. So I started cheering for them, like, hey, you rock, you are rock stars. You can do this,
Yeah.
persevere. And all while I was taking the test, for a few minutes, and then I start calling out their names. I would just go down the row
Oh,
and I would go, Kaden and Kenya and Tommy and Brian. Oh, you're rock stars. Oh, I can see you're working now, because I could actually see them passing the test. So I was literally saying, oh, this is awesome. Look at you guys. And I didn't realize in doing that they started dependent on it. So for the next few months, I was doing that. And I thought, wow, all of us, adults, we respond to affirmations and
Right.
affirmative conversations and empowerment. So words of empowerment, we have to encourage our kids. We have to tell them, just whatever they're struggling with, you can do this. Just like when they're learning to ride a bike, how many times do they fall down? They're going to fall down, so you
Many
automatically get a helmet because that's a
times.
given. They're going to fall first.
Right. Right. And
Yeah, they're going to fall.
something that your point brings to my mind is even more important who you surround yourself with. So see, like you were a positive force in those kids' lives, right? So you
Yeah,
were there as an adult. And so even as kids, it's important who your friends are, who you're hanging out with, what they
yes,
say, what they do.
yes,
Same thing with
yes,
adults. You're as good as the 5 people around you, because if you have people
yes,
around you
exactly,
saying negative things, you're
exactly.
going to do the same
Yeah,
exact thing they're doing. Sooner or later, it's guaranteed.
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah. We copy habits, good
yeah,
and
we
bad.
do. Yeah. And we pay attention to what people say, and then internalize it, and it's playing in your subconscious, and you have no idea it's actually you listen to this
Yes.
recording, and then you start seeing yourself acting the same way, and it's like, why? What's It's because you're
Yeah,
hanging out with
yeah,
them. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And you know what? And I found out too. I didn't realize. Hats off first to teachers. I would never
Yes.
do that. I would, even in a new life, I would never do that as a profession. It is so emotional because you
Yes.
want the kids to win. And I realized it was easier for me to do it because I was only supposed to be there for a couple of weeks and
Right.
something happened and I ended up, and I was like, oh, this is a setup. How did I get here? But because you want the kids to win, it
Right.
changed. That was my mind. So my mindset had to shift because I was like, this is not what I do. But my mindset shift because I wanted the kids to win.
Right.
So I immediately had to change the way that I approach them
Right.
and the way I prepare to come to them. And so I was thinking that, when we think about supporting anyone to win, you really have to be for them. And they
Right.
know. And what I love about kids, they're brutally honest
Mm-hmm.
because they recognize you can't, pretense. You can't, you can fool them just enough, but they can tell
Yes.
the sensitivity and the giving and your natural ability to actually want for them or to give to them. And so
Right.
they're interesting because they're just little people, and to see their development and their personalities,
Right.
I just see them as little people, and that if you want to empower them, then you really have to help what they think about themselves,
Yes.
what they think about family and the world around them,
Right.
and make them speak positive about themselves.
Yes.
Make that a part of their everyday life, that what they speak and what they say. And so this was pretty interesting because there was even kids that would come to class and sleep because they didn't like the virtual thing. But
Right.
as you started talking to them and calling their names, little boy would sleep. Christian, I used to call his name all the time. Christian, wake up. Christian, do this. And eventually I hit a trigger after some days and found out he was a fluent reader,
Wow.
just like an adult. And I
Right.
thought, wow, these kids have so many gifts. And, until you push them
Mm-hmm.
and find and just help them to discover what they have. And then you also cheer for them. Become
Right.
their parents. I think parents should be their kids' best cheerleaders. And
Yes.
then teach your kids
Yes.
how to cheer for each one, how to cheer for one another in the families.
Yes,
Mm,
that's so important. Every child
yeah,
needs a champion. I mean, every
yeah,
person needs a champion, but
yes,
really
yes,
very importantly, not more, but
yeah,
very
yeah,
importantly, every child
yeah,
needs a champion, because your words can make the difference between whether this kid makes it,
yes,
becomes all
yes,
that they are meant to be and the reason they're here
yeah,
for, versus they don't make it. Because
yeah,
like
yeah,
Gwen and I were Gwen is on the board of Kids of Hope, the foster care
yeah,
nonprofit. that I started, but you know, that's the same thing. We're trying to help our foster children to just know
Yeah.
that they are here for a reason, and that there is good in their
Yes.
lives despite all the things around them that don't seem good, right? And that they
Yeah.
just need
Yeah.
to know that somebody cares and somebody loves them and somebody believes in them, and that they can make
Yeah.
it. So yeah, it's so important. But then it also means that we as parents, we have to watch what we say, and we have to, yes, will we make mistakes? Yes. But there's not
Yes.
like the power of I'm sorry to your kid and oh, mommy will do better, especially if they point it out to you, because kids are really good.
Oh, very
Mine
good.
always keep me on my toes because they're like, oh, mommy, you broke the rules. So now
And
I
they
have a choice. Am I
listen.
going to admit I broke the rules? Or am I going to be like, child, who are you talking to? You know? So
Wow.
it's making that choice to
And they're
also
listening to
be
you, right?
right. They're soaking, they're sponges, they're soaking everything you do and say. So it's listening to the kids, and I mean, and just being honest and being humble enough to say, you know, mommy messed up this
Yes.
time, and this is how we can fix it. You know, giving them those tools and the strategies they need to realize that they can do a redo, they can start over,
Yes.
and they can
Yes.
do better, right? That
Yeah.
it's not final. So
No, and realizing too that I think one thing I always remember, I grew up where my mom always had, she was very democratic. We had family meetings because we couldn't talk negative about one another.
I love
So
that.
believe it or not, 5 siblings, and I never had an argument.
Wow.
We
Really?
had meetings. We literally never argued. We never had a fight because if we had a grievance, my mom, we would have anybody could call a family meeting. The 2 year old to the 7 year old, because there was about 8 year difference, and I was the oldest in the house. So literally, you could be like, I have a problem. So and so ate my cookie, and it didn't matter what it was. If it was important to us, my mom made
Right.
it important to the group. And
Right.
so, as, as a result of that, I am very diplomatic about the way I deal with arguments. I purpose not to argue. And so it's some things that, you, again, repetitive learning, and also the mom or the parents setting a life learning discipline that becomes a part of not only our generation, but we taught our kids,
Right.
because that's the way we grew up. So no, you don't, you get to disagree, but you don't get to fight.
I love it because it's true. They're not gonna grow up and be yelling and screaming at each. I
Ooh,
mean, that would be
no,
not
no.
good. So they have to learn the skills now. I like that everybody can call a
Mhm.
family meeting. So would your mom drop everything and just gather everybody and talk it out?
Yep,
That's
yep.
what would
We would,
happen.
yep. We pretty much, if someone had something was gone, missing, or somebody took somebody's toy and they hid it, it didn't matter what the subject matter was. Anyone could call. And then we had our monthly meeting where we just sit down and talk about family things, and she made things aware. We had fire drills, and so planning and everything. And my mom my dad left, so my mom was a single mom, and I think her whole purpose was to make us aware and protect us as one person. So
Right.
as a result of that, we had fire drills and planning things, and so we learned a lot. And I realized no matter how young you are, it was empowering,
Yes.
and I could see that imprint, in our lives, and
Mm,
especially, in mine, because I was the oldest, and I found it sometimes thought, how did she do all this stuff?
right. I know mommies are amazing.
Oh
So
yeah,
wow. I love the fire drills. Huh. Parents, that's
yeah.
something
We have
I think
we have fire drills.
I'm gonna work on that.
Yep,
Yeah.
we did. We knew what tree we were supposed to meet at. So we had a big tree that's,
Right.
a couple of houses over. And so we were, if we had to, some had to go out the back door, some had to go out the front door. If you had to go out the window, whatever, you met at the tree. And then we had a neighbor that if something happened and my mom got stuck, we had a neighbor that already knew that we were supposed to go to her house and let her know that my mom is knocked out or whatever. And so it was clear plan.
Wow.
It's just, yeah. And it just goes to show that the power of it. And some of those tools that my mom taught, I still use today with my siblings. We
Yeah.
still, like if we're in danger or severe danger, we talk about someone that's passed as if they're alive. We'll say, "Oh, we're going
Good.
to meet Loretta," and so they know, only they know that
Mhm.
you're in big trouble and call the
Right.
police or whatever.
Wow.
So it
Those
just
are
shows us
some
how
those are some
powerful.
important safety to yeah,
Yeah,
no, that's
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
My mom was way
I'm
ahead of her time.
gonna start having family meetings.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
because it does build up a sense of value in the kids
Hmm.
themselves. Like they have this great, it's built up their self-esteem to know that they're
Yes.
important enough for all of us to come and meet and
Hmm.
listen to what they have to say and not say, oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, don't worry
No.
about that,
Yep.
or just bat down their concerns. So
Yep.
wow,
Yep.
that's really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. You didn't get to do that. We didn't get to call each other names.
Wow. Oh my
Yeah.
word. Okay. That's amazing. Wow. So what will you tell parents or kids who say they're struggling with seeing good in themselves and speaking positive things about themselves?
I
How would
would
they
say
walk through that?
first to the parent that would be your first job. And you know what happens a lot of times? Sometimes when we do that, we realize that we don't speak well of ourselves. So I think with the parent starting with doing that for that kid, they're also going to be, if there's a necessary some healing or even some the real reality, the realization that you need to do more of that
Right.
yourself. Because sometimes looking in the mirror, I grew up sometimes looking in the mirror, saying to myself, speaking affirmation, because my mom would teach us, you have to know that you're smart. You have to know that you're smart, you're intelligent, you're good, you're not, and just because you're different, my mom was really brown skin, and a lot of times she was discriminated because of her color of her skin. So she made us aware we didn't get to choose the difference in color and call names because of differences. So there were those type of things that, like from her pain, she taught us the
Right.
positive side of it, and that's what parents have to do. Sometimes we go through a lot of things in life, and I found that in every loss there is a gain,
Oh, absolutely.
because that's where my turning point comes from. That life is not always, it's good, but even in the midst of, we're so, as people, we're so resilient, and as kids, they are too. And that's the other thing, we have to see them as little kids, and that they have the power. If you tell them the truth, and
Right.
you can't tell them everything, but you can tell them enough that you're not misleading,
Right.
and so that they can learn to be able to balance at a
Right.
young age,
Yes.
and
That's
make choices, good choices.
oh yes, yes. That's so critical because as the world has become such a busy place, and if they don't learn how to yeah, to use the word balance and how to just be able to make good choices and how to have
Yeah,
clarity
yeah,
about choices
yeah,
they're making, then we're setting them up for hard times ahead because the world
yeah,
has
yeah.
changed from when you were growing up to even when I was growing up. So
Oh yeah, yeah. And they're a lot wiser than we were. The world has opened so much. We didn't have internet, so just think of the knowledge base. So it can be, and it can be a plus and a minus. And
right,
then again, that's where the parents have to have the controls and the balance, and to make them aware, but also showing that there's a lot of beauty, but the reality is they're so ugly too.
yes,
And how do you choose? And I think even playing a game, with that, like I said, I taught Sunday school, and the class was choices, choices, choices. The funny part was how open kids were. I had one little kid, he literally told me, I think I said, if there was money on the table and no
mm,
one was watching it and you wanted it, what would you do? And he
right,
said, I'd take it. And he said, I said, well, if your mom knew you were the only one in the room and your dad knew you were only in the room and the money was missing, and they ask you, did you take it? He's like, I take it anyway. He said, because he pretty much said, I suffer the consequences. that was his, I'm like, I said, I usually don't snitch on the kids, but I said, I had to tell his mom. he really pretty much said, I'm going to do whatever I want. I'll just suffer the consequence.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was his mentality.
Right.
And it's funny, he's 21, 22. He is still that today. He has to bump his head before he makes the right choices.
Right. So
It's
yeah,
funny.
that shows how important it is to have these conversations
Hmm.
when they're younger.
Yep.
Yeah, it sets them up for their path ahead in life. So yeah,
Yeah.
so important. So wow. What's your trifactor again? Can you remind us?
The trifactor, yep, is think, speak, and do.
Think, speak, and
You what you think is what you believe.
right?
What you speak is what gives life and power.
Right.
And what you do is the manifestation of what you think and speak. So your actions, if they don't line up with what you think and you speak, then you do something opposite. It's almost like sometimes if you lie to yourself and you say, "Oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get I'm gonna get all A's," and you keep saying you're gonna get A's, but you don't study. So you're thinking, I'm going to get all A's. You're speaking that, but you
Right.
don't do your homework. You don't do your chores. So you always say you're going to do things. And if you don't do the right actions, then that means what you're thinking and what you're speaking is not what you're doing. So if they're in alignment, then
Right.
you succeed. If they're out of alignment, you have to fix it first by going back to, what do I think about myself?
Right.
What do I think about math? And telling kids, some kids always say, I don't like math and I don't like this. And you're like, well, you can't say you don't. I understand that you don't like math. Maybe you're not getting a strategy.
Right.
You're not understanding the results. Maybe there's another way that you need to learn this, because you can't function through this world without math. You're
Right.
going to use it. If you're going to count money, you're going to solve problems. So you have to make them at least think that some things in life you have to figure out, and maybe there's different ways that you can understand them and do well. And you don't have to be um, professional, you don't have to be a pro, you don't have to be a rock star, but you do have to learn some things in order, to make it through life.
Yes, I completely agree. You're absolutely right. So, Gwen, can you tell them where they can find more about you, please?
Yeah, they can find me on Facebook, Gwendolyn Wilson, the Turning Point Strategist. I'm on Instagram as well, and you can find me on LinkedIn, Gwendolyn Wilson, Business Consultant.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for
Oh,
taking
you're
out
welcome.
time to talk with us. And parents and kids, I hope you had enjoyed this episode of Brain Power TV. And remember, if you love your brain, you love your life, right? See you next time.
Yes, yes. Oh, I love it.